So, our research is on the impact of falls in the elder population. And what some of you may not realize is it not only affects the people who are falling, but all of you out there. It affects all of us in one way or another. The elder population is classified as adults who are 65 to 79 years old. And statistically, 1 out of 3 adults will fall each year. That one adult is 2 to 3 times more likely to fall again that same year. It is the leading cause of injury death. And more than 21,000 older adults died from an unintentional fall in 2010. And in 2011, 2.4 million injuries were related to unintentional falls. So as you could assume, the medical costs related are astronomical. And again, they affect us all. So in 2010, the fall-related costs were about $30 billion. And in 2020, they're predicted right now to be $55 billion. So a little perspective for you guys. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of Medicare. Okay. Keep your hand raised if you know what Medicare is. Okay. So for those of you who don't know what Medicare is, it's a federal health insurance program, and it's there for individuals who are 65 years or older, or it is available for younger people with disabilities or patients with end-stage renal disease. However, Medicare comes out of your paychecks, and mine. And for a little perspective, a Vermont resident who works 43 hours a week at about $12 an hour grosses $516 a week. And about $7.50 will come out of that paycheck. And if you add it up, that's about $400 a year. And over 10 years, that's about $4,000. So I'll let you do the math, what that looks like over 20 years, 30 years, etc. So again, this is just an example of someone who's making a couple dollars over minimum wage in Vermont and working a 43-hour week. So imagine those 50K salaries and more. Like, imagine the deductions that are coming out of those. So how the Medicare dollar is spent affects all of us. So balance is a really important parameter to identify people who are at risk of falling, and that's what we want to do. So the laboratory measures right now are the force plate and the neurocom, which are objective tests that produce numerical data. However, they're not portable, so we can't bring them to the seniors that need to be tested. And they're about $30,000 to $50,000. There's clinical balance measures used by allied health professionals, including the timed up and go and the Berg test. They're qualitative functional assessments. However, there's the MAT scan produced by TechScan, which is a hybrid test. It is similar to the force plates in its outcomes. However, it is portable and it's only $6,000. It produces objective numerical data as well. So the MAT scan, which I know some of you guys came and tested yesterday and realized either you had great balance or need some work on it. It tracks the center of pressure of your body during a static stance. So static stance is when you're just standing still. And we calculate the variables area, distance, variability, left to right excursion, which means sway, and your front to back sway. And there is a validity study being done at University of Virginia, and the results should be out September 1st. Comparing the Fort plate, which is a really reliable force test, to the MAT scan to see if they are similar to each other. And then there was a reliability study performed by us at PSU. We looked at elders and college-aged individuals to determine, is the MAT scan producing reliable numbers, or is it all over the place? And it was reliable. So the purpose of our research and what we've been doing is to see, can MAT scan be used in a clinic to accurately predict if somebody is at risk of falling? So to do so, we're looking at the relationship between the variables produced by the MAT scan, as well as 2 other tests, the timed up and go and the Berg test. This image right here is a picture of somebody's 2-foot static stance, and those dots indicate where they're swaying. So it tracks a ton of different dots, all in a span of 30 seconds. So this is what we look at. In this blue circle right here is their best fit ellipse, and that's what we use to calculate the area. And if you were to take all of those dots and stretch it out into a string and measure that, that would be your distance. So our procedure is we have pre-test documentation. So we go through informed consent, We go through a health and activity questionnaire. We have a photo and video release, so we can use photos such like this as this one in presentations. And then we do an activity balance confidence scale where subjects rate themselves 0 to 100% doing various activities. Then we have a randomized order of which tests they're going to complete first, second, and third. So they complete the MAT scan, the BERG, and the timed up and go. Following testing, we have a follow-up phone survey. So we call every 2 weeks for 6 months. And we ask them, have you fallen in the past 2 weeks? And if they have, we categorize them. So did they fall because they were out playing tennis, due to sport? Or did they fall activities of daily living? Or did they fall because they slipped on ice or snow because we live in New England? So the MAT scan, like I said before, is portable and it's lightweight. It has sensors in it and it's hooked up to a laptop with Sway software. The subject stands on the mat and the sensors are activated. And then we measure the variables that I previously mentioned under 4 different conditions. And again, it's randomized. So we measure it under 2 feet eyes open, 2 feet eyes closed, 1 foot eye open, and 1 foot eyes closed. And we ask them to stand on their non-dominant foot. Now the timed up and go test is a clinical test. It is scored in seconds. The subject stands up from a chair, walks 10 feet out, turns around, and returns back to the chair and sits down. As you can see in this graph, their cut score corresponds to an elder population. And finally, the BERG test is also a clinical test. It's a series of 14 different functional movements, and it yields a composite score. So for instance, we ask them, can you reach forward in as far as you can? We measure in inches, we score them 0 to 4. Can you tap your foot X amount of times on this stool? Or can you bend over and pick up a stuffed animal off the floor? This includes a chair with armrest and without, a collapsible step, a stopwatch, and our stuffed animal priest, who also serves as our mascot. So our current results have showed us that the BERG and the TUG do correlate. However, the BERG and the MAT scan do not share a significant correlation yet, nor do the TUG and the MAT scan. So we think this is partly due to a lack of data dispersion. So we tested about 108 individuals to date. And out of those individuals, a lot of them had great balance and were in great health. They didn't have a history of falling, and they didn't fall within 6 months after testing. And if they did, it was majority due to ice and snow. And I don't know about you, but I fell this past winter due to ice. And so we're trying to recruit people who are fallers, who are predisposed to fallers. However, fallers don't like to be tested. It's nerve-wracking for them. Who wants to go and practice something that they know they're not good at? So our future research is we are trying to recruit approximately 50 subjects who do have a history of falling. We think that this will give us more of a dispersion in our data and give us a more accurate reading of the 3 tests to see if they do correlate. However, it is possible we might not find that correlation, so we might look to see, are the TUG and the BERG measuring something different than the MAT scan? The TUG and the BERG are confirmed to predict people who are at risk of falling. However, maybe the MAT scan is more sensitive specifically to balance, whereas the BERG and the TUG might be more functional tests. So again, why is this important, and why should we care, and why should we continue to research this? I just want you guys to take home with you today that this affects you no matter what. So maybe you're not at risk of falling today, or maybe your parents aren't at risk of falling, but one day you might be, or if you're not and you're in great health in your 80s, it affects your paychecks. It comes out of your paychecks. It goes to Medicare. In the Lancet in 2012, the author stated that to reduce the human and economic effect of injury, we need better prevention, effective and affordable treatments, and the tenacity to ensure their universal access. So we need to find the data that supports the tests with the greatest sensitivity to catch the falls before they happen. I would like to thank my research team first. Sam is on the far left, Ari, our supervisor Margie, and Garrett, and myself. And we also have Stephanie who works with us. And I'd like to thank Embry for giving me the opportunity to work on the grant and to present today. Any questions?
Yes. Is there a correlation between regular exercise and the tendency to have
We're trying to find the correlation between the 3 different tests. So the TUG and the BERG are reliable tests as of right now used by allied health professionals to predict somebody who's at risk of falling. However, this MAT scan is such a sensitive piece of equipment that produces so many variables to look at, not just a composite score or a cut score. So we're trying to prove maybe this is a more sensitive test that will catch like the slightest imbalance so we can intervene before that fall happens rather than after, and after all those medical costs are in effect.
I was just wondering if you asked your subjects whether they
Oh.
exercise.
Yes, during the health and activity questionnaire, we ask them all sorts of questions, and a lot of the questions are based off of their physical activity. So we have a wide range, some people who don't do any physical activity, but we do ask them, 2 people who are very, very active, ski every day. We do ask them how many hours on average they participate in some sort of activity, and then also what that activity is. So we do ask those questions, and we do record it into a spreadsheet in our data. Yes.
Why do you test the non-dominant leg?
We find that just like, you know, if I'm a righty, I'm weaker left. So we find that that non-dominant foot will give us more of an accurate reading to go off of, because it's your weaker leg.
You find that if they have less balance on the non-dominant foot, they're more likely to fall.
Yes. Any other questions? Yes.
You mentioned the force plate, which sounded to me like it was similar to the landscape.
Mm-hmm.
How well does that correlate with the TUG and BERG?
I'm not sure. I haven't personally looked into that. The force plate is a reliable piece of equipment. However, it measures force, whereas the MAT scan is measuring balance. TUG and BERG are more functional tests, but I'm not sure exactly what their correlations are. Any others?
Why did you choose to follow up for 6 months?
So part of our data collection is to see if people are following post-test. And that's to see how many falls are they having a year. Because people who are more at risk of falling are more likely to have 1, 2, or more falls.
I guess I'm wondering why that time frame, not a year, 2 years. I mean, that's a lot of calling.
Sure, yeah, it is a lot of calling. I actually conduct the phone calls myself. It is a lot of calls. It's 12 calls in 6 months. However, in those 2 weeks, if they have had a fall, it's easier for them to recall when it happened and exact details. Because we ask, like, to a T, what happened? Did you fall completely down? Did you catch yourself? Did you trip over something? Did you need medical attention? So we ask like very detailed questions. So if we're a month out and they fell in the beginning of that month, they can't really recall like too many details. You know, they might be like, I think it was around, you know, this date. So it's easy and accurate if we do every 2 weeks. Any other questions? No? All right, thank you very much.